So, Dandadan has had a generational run of anime, but the studio has cut costs at various places. Which is not to discredit the studio, because for every cost cut we get, we also get amazing scenes like these. So why am I actually discussing the studio cutting costs? Well, it's for fun. It's a fun analysis and I wanted to do because a lot of people think like, oh, it's amazing animation. I don't even know how it's made. A lot of it is really simple. Well, also, a lot of it is just speculation and how I might have made those scenes. And when writing this, I noticed that a lot of the conversations are just PNGs with some motion and lip flap. This is really common. Like if you're making two characters talking to each other and it's just a still frame, you best believe the only thing they actually made is the mouth movement. For example, if you have to draw me talking like this and you don't genuinely need to draw anything except my mouth. That's really common and damn near in every single episode. So let's get started with episode 1. So this kick Momo threw at her now ex was very likely reused in the end when she kicked the alien. Like I'm pretty sure they made the last scene first, then they reused that exact same kick while adding another layer for clothes and changing the background and adding her ex in. And they didn't make that kick again. Hell, the entire first scene is a lot of cost cuts. This is just size and perspective. When Momo falls after getting kicked, this is a PNG when her boyfriend is talking to her. This walk is scale and that's all. They made the first motion and just scaled it with the background. I also noticed that in a lot of the shots they reflect light off of Okarun's glasses, which yes, glasses do work like that. Light does kind of reflect in it. But it's also a really easy and convenient way of not drawing his eyes. Trust me, I will do the exact same thing if I can get away with drawing the second eye. A lot of Momo's flashback was the scale, reuse or rotation done on a frame by frame level. And all this in the first 10 minutes of the show makes you wonder where all the budget went, right? Well, why do you think the episodes are 20 minutes long? Every penny they saved before, they spent here. And this is a repeating pattern. Like a lot of times you'll see half the episode is basically cost cuts and the other half is a immaculate splurge. I shouldn't even need to tell you. These are static images. Another theme that will make repeat occurrences. And Blue Lock animators, take notes because that's how you do screenshots. Episode 2. In the start when these two are talking, you can see them in kind of like a manga panel-esque breakdown of the screen, which was cool to look at, and I hope more shows do this because it's really amazing to look at, but it's also a really convenient way of not drawing details. I also have to appreciate the camera work and the sound. That was perfect. And just like before we move on to the animation, I also just want to point out, imagine if the genders were reversed in this scene.
No way, is it really gone? What's it look like? Show me!
What are you, stupid? I'm not showing you!
If nothing's there, what's the harm?
It's not
Twitter would have a meltdown. Oh, this one wasn't really a cost cut, but just wanted to mention it. I don't think there isn't cost cuts in this episode. There are a lot. But it's basically the same as what I previously mentioned. I don't want to repeat myself many times because the first 11 minutes were almost just convo. When they're running from the monster, they literally just made the first motion cycle and it's a loop from then, which is really common and like it works. More shows should do this. Why are you wasting budget animating scenes you don't need to animate? Also, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure that the alien is a 3D model, and if we believe that to be correct, the entire exposition part of the episode was done on a PNG with a 3D animation model. And they somehow made it look and feel good. Like, I couldn't tell that they literally barely animated that. I had to look closely to figure that one out. But more shows should do this. A lot of these things, especially Blue Lock. They began spending the budget from 15 minutes onward. The convos are still low budget though. And like, I am pretty sure more than the fight with the alien itself, they spent the entire budget on this transformation in the end. And this brings us to a point where every 12-year-old sees their generation's Lady Sunade.
They say she needs to slow down. The baddest thing around town. She's nothing like a girl you've ever seen before. Nothing you can compare to your neighborhood. I'm trying to find the words to describe this girl without being disrespectful. The way that booty moving, I can't take no more. Had to stop what I'm doing so I can pull her close. I'm trying to find the words to describe this girl without being disrespectful. Damn girl.
Episode 3. Most of the first minute can be explained with PNG and mouth flaps, so let's not get into those. Also, is it just me or does Momo look like Misaka for some reason? Like, tell me in the comments. Like, I rewatch each episode to find moments, and then I realized the entire episode was a cost cut for the next one. So there isn't anything specific to this episode or a particular scene. The entire episode is basically one massive cost cut so that they can spend the entire budget on episode 4. Which there are still some cost cuts in episode 4, but they're not as major as this one. And also I noticed that they hardly used the glass reflection this episode and drew both eyes. So they were like, okay, we're gonna save most of the budget, but we can at least draw eyes if we are doing that. And well, the gags were pretty well animated, so the budget went somewhere. Episode 4. As much as I would love to say that there is nothing wrong in this entire episode and every single penny they saved from the previous episode they spent over here, there are some nitpicks I can make here as well. Like right before the opening when the crab shows up, it's a slideshow of 4 slides, which you best believe the Blue Lock animators were taking notes on how to make a slideshow animation. Yes, that's actually possible. It doesn't always look bad. Case in point, they do this again in episode 9, I think. Like, they use this exact same trick again in another combat episode, which the number I'm currently forgetting. It's written in here as well. Keep watching for that one. In the scene right after the opening, when the two are running, the run's first cycle is reused the entire time and only the background is actually animated. You can tell this really easily if you pay close attention. Which you don't even need to pay that close attention to figure out how these things. The entire game-like chase scene is reused the entire way through, and I don't even blame them. They reuse the exact same frames, and yet is somehow the best scene in the show. Like one of the best scenes. I won't say like it's the best scene, but it's definitely one of the highlights of this episode in terms of animation and like just pacing and quality. Which usually, like if you're reusing the entire scene again, it's usually frowned upon, but it somehow works here. And I'm pretty damn sure every single fucking penny they saved for the last 2 episodes, they spent entirely on that chase scene. MHA wishes it was that dynamic and fluid with Black Whip, but it isn't. Like it just isn't, and it can't be compared to this one. And this is one of the best scenes this episode. This is one of the best episodes this season in terms of action. And the rest of the episode is a budget cut with audio over images and undetailed animation, which honestly I'm not even gonna fault them for it. They gave every single penny to that chase scene, which was it was epic as hell. Also, like something to note, because I don't have an opportunity to say this later, the tunnel scenes, they never actually draw again. They literally just either swap colors or add a few more layers of color to change times. They never redo those. They are the same you saw during the first scene to the tunnel and the last one. They were never redrawn, which is also a good thing. Save animators budget, give them lives. Mappa, take notes. You don't need to immaculately animate every single scene. You can just use your brain. Episode 5. And before we get into the animation, is this in contention to be the best episode for story this season? I mean, One Piece is out of the question because they have nothing but Fishman Island in the season, but this might be the best downtime episode I have seen, except for Iruma. Like, Iruma's downtime episodes are still better. Like, I don't know about you, but the music kinda reminded me of Coco. Tell me if that's familiar to you and tell me in the comments. And I'm pretty damn sure that the transformation in this episode was just a flex from the animators because of their burning desire to animate something. They were probably like, we need to animate something. We can't just leave this episode without something. We need to give the fans some piece of animation. Which I'm pretty sure, like, dude, you can kind of chill. You don't need to give us immaculate pieces of animation every single episode. It was a downtime story episode. Save it for the action. Which they do. Episode 6. Now, I would like to point to the opening, but we got this in the first 2 minutes, so I won't. And Okurun, sorry to tell you, she isn't that type of girl. With you, since you. Understood? Also, like, still love the transformation though, and it is this comeback that made him realize that Momo was cute and the dude dug Aira from the beginning. Food for thought. And here is where they literally did zero effort when it comes to the dub. I was watching the dub, you can see my reaction clip. Where the fuck were the subs? There were Japanese subs, there were subs in the subbed version. Why the fuck didn't you add them in the dub? Do your job! Like, technically this was in the studio's budget cut, but this was still a budget cut from the dubbers. So yeah, I'm counting that. Also, when Turbogranny explains about yokai being able to see humans with Okurun the balls, this is basically just one illustration with rotation and particular After Effects effect to give it the wavy look. And here is just like a quick PSA for all the children watching. You don't necessarily need to go with someone to avoid drama, especially if the place looks like this. Trust me for a fact, this is where Chris and Dr. are waiting for the buffet. And you know for a fact it ain't the food buffet. And I'm pretty sure these chicks are dead because we never see them again. They're dead as hell, dead as a doornail. This happened very fast, but this was one PNG dragged across the scene. Much like Aira dragged those nuts across Momo's face. Episode 7. And yeah, this is where the budget for the last 2 episodes went. Something I noticed with this is that they used an astounding number of stills between the fight and the flashback. They put every penny in that flashback. Now, being this deep in the video, you probably think like, damn, there is a lot of ways to make good quality anime without spending that much money. Surely, they didn't cut costs anywhere in the flashback. I am not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure you pay the voice actors with the budget for the episode, and literally every single penny went in the animation. Now, I see you typing it was a creative choice to portray the scene like that, and I agree with you, it was one of the best scenes this season, I agree. But thinking they didn't have the money to pay the voice actor is far more funnier for me, so I'm going with that. On a serious note, they didn't need that much voice acting, the music carried it just fine. Like, they probably would have ruined the scene if they actually went with a lot of voice acting there. The music was perfect. Episode 8. We are halfway there. Like, we are more than halfway through the series already. I thought this would like be a 1 hour video, but not apparently. Also, I said that I wouldn't mention the same shit twice, and that's the reason I didn't bother mentioning the numerous other times they did the still frame lip syncing thing, which is really common. Like, more anime do that, a lot of anime do that. Mappa is literally the only studio that doesn't do it. Surprisingly, it's the only studio which has complaints about exploiting animators to that degree. People will be like, the biggest strategy this season with Akon was him losing his bat and balls. But do you know the agony of a nerd when he has to cancel when a girl calls him out? Tell me if you relate, because I'm pretty sure that's worse. Well, if you don't have a bat and ball, can you even do anything? Still, it's worse if you cancel. Miss Mumu Ayas said that boy is working on a report on human reproduction. Please do not disturb the guy in this research. Thank you very much. When the kids are studying in the scene, the video shown is a real video. Not sure from where, but a real video. Oh, that means the only thing they made was the background. Also, just a quick question. How the fuck does no one notice him working out in the middle of the class? Like, is it allowed in Japan, or is it like no one gives a shit? Because I'm pretty sure his teachers would be like, okay, it's good you're working out, but go to the gym and focus on the class right now. After this, the plot shifted more towards action, and sure, the scene of the ripple traveling was a loop to increase tension, but the major cannon right after that was just chef's kiss. The whole segment of the Godzilla snake was one of the best shots in the series, to the point that pausing the episode to write this segment was the hardest decision I made that day. I just wanted to keep continuing watching it, but I wouldn't be able to write the script now then. And also, like a minor tidbit, do you want to know how this effect is made? Well, take the object, duplicate, position, opacity, and then camera animation. You get the scene. Exactly. I'm not going to do it because I don't want to. I don't have the time for it. Basically because I don't have this character drawn. But you can do it really easily that way. Episode 9. I feel like I should reiterate, I will not be mentioning repeat offenders again. And I have a feeling they draw Acro Silky's mask like this so that they don't need to draw the lip flaps. Because then it's just a still image. Cycle of him grabbing his groin and walking in a circle is a loop. And here's the thing with walk cycles. If you're showing the exact same motion, you don't necessarily need to draw it again and again. Like, for example, if you're walking, you don't take 2 steps separately. You take them in the exact same motion. So while making a video, if you just take this initial step, they can literally just take the shot of your legs and then repeat it again and again to give the impression that you walked longer. Like, that's animation 101. Don't make shit you don't need to make. Also, they censored this in the dub by just zooming it, which is really lazy but really efficient. Starting at 4 minutes and 47 seconds, it is a slideshow. Are you watching Blue Lock Animators? And let me just say, the way these guys inject steroids is rather peculiar, to the point they removed this in the dub. The dub for this episode is heavily censored. Like I previously said, that the groin part zoomed out removes the, and the injection steroid was removed as well. And the later scene with, Momo, Karun, school was also chopped up. Like, is it just me, or does it look like he's getting a handy over here? Starting from 11 minutes and 16 seconds in this episode, it is a constant use of repeat loop and previous scenes till 12 minutes and 53 seconds. And as you typing, the Ira scene, they only animated her hair and the bubbles. That's all. That's all they needed to animate. It gave the impression. And now do you realize how much of animation is quite literally just playing with what you see and how you perceive it? After that, they had a conversation about what happened last episode, and the budget for this episode went in the underwater fight scene with the Godzilla snake thing. Best piece this episode. And do I even need to tell you that the only thing they did this scene was make the green light in the background bigger. Now that I'm breaking down, do you realize a lot of the scenes that look really epic are really simple? Them strategizing was also a repeat. If you're wondering how they even managed to give the illusion of motion with all these, well, the answer to that is the pieces in animation between and the sound design. And like a lot of the time, if you just do minimal motion but the sound effect of that is carrying a lot of the weight, you perceive it to that the motion is also carrying a lot of the weight, which it might not. Like sound design plays a major part in productions like this. I also noticed that they reused the same technique they used with Ira for Momo's hand in this scene, and now you tell me, did they reuse the bubbles as well? And tell me in the comments. Episode 10. Before anything, has Seiko ever met the dominatrix nurse? Because this combo could give Goku the shivers. And now let's talk animation like we have been doing this entire time. Reuse cycles, undetailed frames, and you know the drill on how to save money. Just a question, how the fuck do they know who dropped the tub? That was just an inconsistency till I missed something. Like, tell me in the comments, like how the fuck did they find this out? And can we talk about how Seiko made a professional boxer tap out? Just saying, Logan Paul, you might have some challenge. Wait, who was the fighter? Wait, who was the Paul that fought Mike Tyson? Whoever did, you have a contender here. And can we also talk about the fact of Seiko forcing this poor immigrant worker to drink his own blood? And also, how the fuck did he know the taste of his own blood? Really curious, like I really want to know, how the fuck does he know the taste of his own blood? Is he drinking his own blood? Is he a cannibal? I would really like answers. Okay, so most of the budget this episode went into the spaceship. The detailing alone would cost a lot. But like, can we talk about the fact that no one in the vicinity seems to care there is a giant spaceship outside their houses? And yeah, the lifting of the cow scene was just positioned for the cow. So you can do this really easily in After Effects. Everything else I noticed I already mentioned before. Episode 11, and yes, I am recording this one day before the finale comes out. That's why the costume change and also the writing change, because these are vastly different times. But can I just say, my reaction to watching this thing was the same as Okarun. He looks cool and badass, only for him to turn into a Sanji. Not a compliment, by the way. Like, I really hope they make him cooler, because I hate his ass. Like, I thought he was going to be badass. I thought he was going to be a cool character. He isn't. He is a fucking annoying piece of shit. And him spinning here is a 3-frame trick where you move 3 perspective fast so that it looks like rotation. Him pointing in the air is so damn lazy. I am willing to bet that it's damn near the laziest shot in the series by far. They didn't make his entire arm, which is... Please? They didn't bother removing the image of the hand from its prior location when it shows up in the next one. Like, okay, I know this was made on After Effects with slight touch-ups in Animate later, but come on, even on After Effects you can do better than that. And not all scenes are made on After Effects, but there are a lot of scenes where it's like, yeah, you don't need anything above After Effects for this one. Like all the scenes they speak in, because they're just standing still while speaking. You best believe that they did not use animate on that one. Which doesn't really matter, because they do use animate on the chase scenes. And Momo, if you don't want to live with Gigi, just move in with Okarun. You have been gathering his stuff anyway. You can test out if it works. Also, where does Okarun live? Like, do we ever see that in the series or like anytime in the manga anywhere? I heard a theory that his dad was Ken Takakura, the actual Ken Takakura that Momo is a fan of, and that will be your dad's your worst enemy. Why would that be a plotline? Also, I totally dig the new plotline and going for more traditional horror stuff. I don't know why more anime don't do this. Like, and actually recommend me some horror anime, because I have felt many things while watching anime except fear. I wanna know fear. And don't bother with Junji Ito, that didn't work at all. Was not scared in the slightest. Also, do I need to point out that they used still shots of the house while Gigi was explaining his circumstances. And for perspective, let me put it in JJK terms. They would have done this in JJK season 1, but in season 2, we would have gotten a 3D shot of the entire house through a camera lens. instead of still shots. I can bet you season 2 is going to be far more heavy in production, because JJK season 1 was pretty similar. Like, a lot of scenes weren't that animated that they went for in season 2, which, come on, just stick with the season 1 stuff. Like, there was so much unnecessary stuff in season 1 because of which they weren't able to finish it. But it's like, yeah, your choice. And the story being connected to prior gags is also pretty neat. It's like Seiko buying uniforms if they complete the job, because they needed those. Wait, how the fuck did Mama go to school? Oh, she was wearing something. I was like, is it just me, or does it seem really stupid for anyone to buy a house in the mountain with no near neighborhood, no stores, no nothing? And like, I don't really know, because I always lived in areas where there are stores and stuff just around the corner, so it's hard for me to imagine someone buying a house in a mountain to live in. Like, that just seems weird. Why would you do that? And a quick question, how the fuck does anyone like him? Like, can you just get away with anything if you have a pretty enough face? Of course you can. The world is a fucking joke with no justice in it. Also, during the sketch segment, did you notice how Momo is drawn more detailed while Gigi is basically a stick figure, while ghosts are drawn even more detailed than Momo? Take it as well, but I think that's a pretty cool detail. It shows Okarun's interests and his growing interest in Momo, which will be explored in this episode. I like how the author has written the series that the audience feels the exact same way as Okarun does, especially in this episode. Like, whenever Gigi shows up, when Momo and Okarun are talking, he and I were collectively like, why the fuck are you here? Can you not see? We're busy, please leave. And now, time for the greatest stretch of animation this episode, the chase scene part 2. Now, I'm not entirely sure if the running is looped all the time. It's looped in certain areas, and like, there was no loop when the camera pans out to give the full shot of the muscle. Well, if you didn't rig the entire scene enough in Blender before and then retrace that entire fucking scene to touch up on the models later, that's something. Essentially, how that works is you make the entire scene in 3D entirely, 3D models and everything, and once that comes out, you can kind of rig it in particular ways that the video turns out to be more dynamic and with 3D models, of course, but it's a 2D medium, so that would look pretty shit. Not necessarily, because if you make it in 3D once and you have the video for it, you can just draw over it, draw the frames over it, fix up the models of it. Like, that should work, and technically I'm pretty sure that's what they did, because otherwise it's pretty hard to like draw each frame that way. It's easier to do it in 3D first. Also, like, the animators get a reference for it. That's also something. And an example of instance where it is looped, like when he's running on the rooftops. He is essentially running on air. That's looped. I can guarantee you that run is looped. But during the scenes where the background is entirely blurred, it looks a bit looped, but I'm not entirely sure if it is. It's like, it might be, it might not be. And here's the thing with the loop as well. In anime, you can quite literally just have a loop and then play it again, but then change a few details while in that particular loop. Like, for example, if I have a loop of a pendulum going like this, in one particular shot, I can have the pendulum go like a bit more and then come back again and then loop it again. And so like that, things like that can be done. So when you say, like, when I'm saying like it's a loop, it doesn't mean that it 100% is a loop. It's that barely anything changes between the shots. With which, if it is a, like, let's go to the same example in the pendulum thing. If it is a loop, if it's going like this, why would I draw this again to take it over here? Just continue from here to here. Yeah, like that. That's really simple. And the ending of it all is just so absurd. It just works. It's so perfectly. Like, episode 5 lost its crown. This is better. Although episode 5 flew out so that this episode could run. Pun 100% intended. I don't even know if that was actually a pun. Tell me in the comments. But no, seriously, the episode started with Okarun feeling like he won't be good enough for Momo.
綾瀬さんの初恋相手かっこいい。いでたちから完全にスポーツマンだ。すごく誠実そうだし、綾瀬さんが好きになるってことは
Outright saying he will never meet her again.
これ以上あの人と仲良く話す綾瀬さんを見れない。もう会わないようにしよう。自分にとっても。
And it is then when he gives up entirely on his life that is faced with the image of a man running tirelessly, chasing the one he loved, and not giving up under any circumstances that it inspires him as a person to not give up on his love.
俺は君と出会って全てが変わったんだ。灰色だった俺の世界が君のおかげで色づいて見えるようになったんだ。
ダメよ。
I love this show. Oh, and music. I don't know who composes it. Mr. or Mrs. You deserve an award. And this has been the single longest segment in the script. So I will move on to episode 12, the finale of season 1. Because you best believe season 2 is coming. Not announced while recording this. First question, who the fuck is putting Christmas ornaments in an anatomical model's genitals, and how the fuck is this thing running? That just confuses me a lot. Can someone answer that? This is the funniest thing this manga has to offer right now. But seriously, how the hell is this thing running? And even an amateur will tell you how this was drawn or made. It's a slower version of the 3-trick rotation I told you about earlier, and a bit of layering. That's about it. Rotate. And the enthusiasm and the motivation Okarun shows for helping out his bestest friend Gigi. We all should learn from Okarun. Here's the thing with the dummy. This episode, I don't think it was looped, because you can see him move in ways that loops won't move him. And so yeah, they animated this episode. Oh, and I am being 100% real with you. There is nothing this episode I haven't already told you about. You thought it was something else? Well, no. Here's the thing. This was the season finale. Even if they do cut costs somewhere, where the fuck are they going to put that money in? Money laundering is always an option, but putting everything in the episode is probably what they did. And here's also why saving money in this episode is meaningless, because they don't have anything else in the season. It's a season finale. Anything they save will be useless. So better yet, just spend it all. So there isn't that many cost cut moments in this one. And if you're thinking oh, season 2, well, they'll get a new budget for season 2. They don't need to stretch season 1's budget till that one. That's not how that works. Until and unless they literally gave them 2 seasons worth of budget at the same time. That might be something, but I don't know. And here are a few standout animation moments for me. When Momo was in the bath, the ripple scene. That was some visual storytelling if you caught the drift of it. And also when they bust a hole in that wall, the paper is 3D model. That's why the fluttering was so fucking smooth. They did not draw that. And that's about it for anime Dandadan. And it's ending. The Dandadan season 1 is over. I am reading the manga. I know for a fucking fact I can wait for season 2 because it's already announced. But I'm not waiting 7 months on that cliffhanger. Alright? See you next week for the Haunted House arc right over here. Subscribe for that.